What's up, guys? Welcome back to the transfer rating. I'm gonna go over the players we signed, basically, touch on the players who kind of moved on as well, but especially the players we signed because that's the biggest portion of our window. You know, we did a lot. I think we did more than anyone could have imagined, or especially me. I was looking at, you know, bringing in maybe three, four players. Like four was already oof. That's a lot, because I was okay. We still need to move on so many players before we actually can bring in the players, and I wasn't really confident about that because the job at hand was a massive. I know a lot of people are extremely excited. I know a lot of people are still disappointed, and some people are completely not happy. I'm happy. I will say this because otherwise the comments will pop off. You're never happy. I'm happy. I have one big issue with the window, which I will discuss as well. But I'm gonna go over the players we signed because at the end of the day, um, we address a lot of things. We address a lot of things, and we start off with Di Gregorio. That was probably the one that came completely out of the blue, at that time, because when the season ended, I don't think anyone was looking at Chesney and was like, okay, we need to move out Chesney. We need to move out Chesney because he's done, so on, so on. There were talks about, okay, his contract is big, and we need to find a solution for his contract, because he apparently didn't want to renew to lower his wage. And apparently as well, it wasn't like renewing was on the table, but it wasn't something he was really open to do. That's why he kind of retired as well. So I fully agree with the club that they made that decision. Okay, then we need to move on. We need to think about the future. Di Gregorio was voted goalkeeper of the season in Serie A. He had a fantastic season. He's a good goalkeeper, and Motta thinks he fits into a system where he's an added player on that pitch who is good enough on the ball. I'm not gonna say he's Ederson on the ball, but he's good enough on the ball to actually have an impact, make an impact on what Thiago Motta wants to do. So that signing is perfectly fine. The structure of the deal as well, we kind of loan him, we pay him next season. That's what it is. It's also fantastic. So that the biggest fear was, okay, we're using funds to that we need to improve the squad for a goalkeeper, and I was like, man, is this really needed right now? We need so much. At the end, it made sense. It made a lot of sense. So I will give that. I will give that an 8. I'll give that a solid 8 because again, he has been voted player of the season in Serie A, or goalkeeper of the season in Serie A. He has proven to be a very good goalkeeper, and the deal in itself is pretty fair. Loan with an obligation set next summer, so on. So I think it's a perfect deal. We haven't seen much of Di Gregorio so far, but again, it's the start of the season. You will make up your mind very long term. So I'll give that an 8. I think that's a very good signing. Next one, Kalulu. People know what I think about Kalulu. Like, I'm not high on the player Kalulu, in general. Even if he made a decision quickly in a split second to say, okay, I will join you, the moment you actually came to me to make a deal, I'm like, okay, I'll sign that and I'm gone. I'm not high on Kalulu. I never was. He had the one very good season, I think, with Milan. But still, like, he's not a player where I'm like, oh, you're gonna improve us 100%. Like, I hope he does. I really hope he does because the loan plus an option and so on, the total package, if everything hits, is less than 20 million. It's still very cheap in today's market. So if he hits, fantastic deal. And I will come on and I will say, you know what, he proved me wrong. But right now, I'm not sold on the player. What I also didn't like is that he took ages to make that decision, basically. And I know during his presser he said, I was sold the moment Juve came, and we know that was not really the case. And I understand it from a certain aspect where he's like, okay, I need to make sure that I have my guarantees that I will stay at Juve, and maybe he got that from Motta, and maybe they told him this is how we should be structuring the deal purely on a financial thing, because I will go to Conceicao in a second, and they agreed that as well there. So I don't know. I'll give that a 6.5 because I, because I don't really rate him. It's as simple as that. It doesn't. It has nothing to do with he waited so long to accept us, because that frustrated me. Yes, but that's not the reason I'll give him a 6.5. I'll give him a 6.5 because I don't rate him, and also he's Plan C. And with don't rate him, I don't think he's a scrub, by the way. It's just it's plan C. It's you will do it, the vibe, the feeling is completely off. It doesn't feel like that's a player I should be trusting, in my opinion. However, it's cheap, and I hope I'm being proven wrong, because that's a win for us, for me, for the club, so on, so on. So I hope I'm 100% wrong on that, and he smashes it, and he's actually value versatile, and he actually fits in what we're trying to do. Fantastic. Next up, Cabal. Another signing that came out of the blue. I think everybody remembered that signing. It was just out of nowhere. It was just Di Marzio putting out Juve are overtaking Inter, and an hour or two later, Juve have closed the deal for Cabal. And another signing that I'm okay with. I'm really okay with, for a simple fact that it's very cheap. There are no real expectations for him. The first outings we've seen, you can see what type of player he is. He will give you 1,000% every single game. He will have a big engine, and you know that, okay, if it gets tough, he will get in there right now. Is he the most polished player? No, he's not. And I think we all have seen that already. He has a lot room to improve. But the fact he's already playing first team football as a starter tells you how much Thiago Motta really trusts him. On that deal, like, that's maybe the deal we were looking for Giuntoli to do more. Bringing these cheaper players that have potential to be really well. And when you pay 12, and you look at a year back, you're like, okay, a year later, if we wanted him and he performed like that at another club, we were paying 25 already, or 30 million. That's the type of deals we were looking Giuntoli to make. And we didn't do that much this summer, but that's one of them. That's one of them. Is that enough for an entire season in terms of quality? Only time will tell. But again, I don't have high expectations on Cabal. I will talk about my issue in the market, the main issue. But overall, I'm perfectly fine with Cabal. I'll give that an 8. An 8, more so, not more about the quality, but the structure of the deal and the expectations for the player. It has a lot of upside. It really has a lot of upside. Even if it doesn't work out, you will find a way to move him out. Not that something I'm waiting for, but you still have that possibility to say, okay, now we're going to move you out and we're going to go ahead. But yeah, let's move on. That midfield was a big task, and the club went full in on that midfield, like full in on that midfield. Let me start off with Turan, because if I'm being completely honest, that's the player I'm the most excited about. And I know that sounds a bit weird, because he's not a player I think you associate with, excited to watch, like an exciting player. I'm going to the stadium to watch Turan. He's not that type of player. I get it. But I like the profile. I like the profile so much. We moved on Rabiot. He's not like for Rabiot. I think he's a bit better on the ball than Rabiot, or smarter on the ball with what he wants to do with that ball. But 20 million euros, I think that's cheap. I really think that's cheap in today's market for a player with his potential as well. I think he will do very well under Thiago Motta. It's a shame that he got injured, a real shame, because I still think he will become a key player, because he kind of does it all. He can break up play. He's good on the ball. He doesn't take 1,000 touches. He knows where he wants to go with that ball. He makes, like, Como and Verona were two different games. It was more fluid because he was in that team and he allowed other players to do different stuff. We didn't have him against Verona. It was still okay, but you can see the difference because certain players were not allowed to do the free roaming as much as they did against Como, with Locatelli moving up high, really high, Cambiasso moving in the 10, Locatelli taking his place. The only constant most of the game was Turan staying and making this possible. I think he's a fantastic player. For me, that's a 9 out of 10 signing. A 10 out of 10 signing is like, we signed world-class player. Boom, smack on. That's amazing. But I like him so much. Turan, and I think he will be a key player for Thiago Motta. I'm actually 100% convinced that he will become a key player for us. So that's a player, in my opinion, I'm the most excited about. From out of all the signings, excuse me, that's a player I'm looking at. I'm like, yeah, that's the guy I want to see explode. I'm actually anxious to see how far he will reach. But yeah, that's a 9 for me. Koopmeiners, and then I will go to Douglas Luiz. Koopmeiners. Hey, that's my guy. I backed it the entire summer. I backed it signing of Koopmeiners the entire summer. Where people are like, it's too much money. I agree, it's too much money. We pay, like another player I will talk about in a sec. It's too much money. Two of the other players I'm going to talk about. It's too much money. However, I get it's today's market. It's still fair to say that's crazy because it is crazy. Football is at a very crazy place. But on Koopmeiners, what I've always said is, if we want to be back a top club, we need to be back top in Serie. And to do so, you need the best players in Serie. Or you need. Koopmeiners is one of the best players in Serie. That's a step I think the club needed to take. I know a lot of people are looking at Koopmeiners saying 60 mil almost, including bonuses. He's not that guy where it's like, oh my god, they have Koopmeiners. It's unique. Nobody has a Koopmeiners around the world. I get it, but we're not in that position to do so. We're not. So if we didn't get Koopmeiners, who else? I always said that he is the main target for Thiago Motta, one of the main targets. You need to give him the main target if it's possible, if it's available, if you have the funds. We had the funds, so I'm okay with that. Motta needs to make it work. Koopmeiners needs to show up. I'm not gonna say, oh, Koopmeiners, we paid 60 million for you, I expect this, because I don't think he's worth 60 million. So I'm not gonna do that. That's on clubs. That's not on players. But in general, Koopmeiners will take us to another. He will take this team to another level. He scores a lot of goals. He has a lot of assists. Like if he has at the end, like I'm looking at Koopmeiners, I'm like, I need at least, excuse me, I need at least double-digit goals, and yeah, I need double-digit assists in the entire season, all over the place, in all competitions. Is it a big ask? Well, he was doing it at Atalanta, so I'm expecting you to do that over here as well. So he is a player I'm actually looking forward to because I think he will be a main guy, obviously. And what from what I've seen, and even as that in the Eredivisie, I think he will deliver. I think he will and also to top it off, he's a player who did everything possible to join us. Said no to Premier League clubs. Basically told his agent, "Do not call me. It's Juve. It's Juve. It's Juve." And he waited until basically the last days of the market. He knew that this is getting sticky, but I'm still digging in deep. I want to join Juve. You made that promise. The money's on the table. You need to accept that. You cannot convince me. And you can see when he came in, he was so relieved. He was so excited that a lot of you guys were like, we need players that want to play for the club. He's not Italian, I get it, but that's a player who actually wants to play for the club. And that's an added bonus. Obviously you need to show it on the pitch, but the motivation level for that guy is already at an all-time high, basically, because he really wants to be here and Motta really wants to have him. So that's a good signing. I gave that 8.5. 8.5 because, yeah, I think we overpaid slightly. But he's a main guy and you got that main guy in. So I'll give you credit for that. In a very sticky situation the club is right now, you still got Koopmeiners over the line. So I need to praise that and I need to back that. And I'm happy. I'm really happy he's here. Next one, Douglas Luiz. That's a weird one for me because with Douglas Luiz, I will give you my rating, 6.5, and I will explain why. That has nothing to do with Douglas Luiz, because I like. If you watch the channel, I've said it so many times. I really like Douglas Luiz. I really like him. When you watch him as Aston Villa, he's high energy. I like those type of players. If you can pair that with quality, and he pairs that with quality. He can get goals. Yeah, set pieces a lot. He has a very good cross on him. Like technical, he is probably our best midfielder on a technical level. Not probably, I think he is. He is a very good player. He's a very proven player that, yeah, he doesn't really look fit right now. He's a bit behind, I get it. But if everything goes to plan, he will take this midfield to another level. So I'm not really angry, or like I'm not really looking at Douglas Luiz. I'm like, wow, we got Douglas Luiz on our team. If it doesn't work out, then okay, it is what it is. But right now, I'm assuming it's gonna work out because I like the quality, I like the player. My issue with that deal is, in hindsight, wasn't it better to spend that money on a main target at the back? That's the only thing I'm worried about right now, because I still think that back line is not deep enough, is not quality enough to go deep in all competitions. And I know Serie A is a priority, but still, like, we're one injury away from looking at that and being like, and already some of them are of you guys are looking at that being like, Cabal, Kati, I'm not so sure. Now imagine if Bremer gets injured, then we have an issue. We have a massive issue. That is my biggest worry. You know, I know the goal of this mercato was midfield and front line. That's what we're going to start with. That's what we're going to build on. And fine, you made that decision. But if you told me we didn't sign Douglas Luiz, but we signed Calafiori, I'll be like, okay, fine. You still got Locatelli, you have Fagioli, you have Turan, you have Koopmeiners, McKennie stayed. I can live with that, you know. With the wingers you added, I can live with that. But right now, I'm still looking at that back line. I'm like, oh man, I know we cannot fix everything. I get it, you know, and I fully understand that. But it's still, for me, a bit frustrating. It's still like, I'm worried. I'm more so worried for that back line if we have an injury or in certain games where we try to play out from the back. We've seen already with Verona that if there's a bit of pressure, we are in some sort of trouble. So let's see. But Douglas Luiz, it's not nothing against a player because I think he's fantastic. I don't think he will do very well when he's up to speed. Maybe I'm like, no, I need to rate the player. You know, the player is a 7.5. The deal is more so because was it 100% needed to spend that money on Douglas Luiz rather than on an other center back? That's the only thing I'm saying. But yeah, let's move on. Let's move on to Nico Gonzalez. Nico Gonzalez, we overpaid. We overpaid for Nico Gonzalez. I think that's everybody. That's what everybody wants to hear and everybody wants to say. And I think that's why people are like, man, I don't like Nico Gonzalez. I like Nico Gonzalez. I think, again, you need to set your expectations like we signed Kostic. I think he's better than Kostic. But when we signed Kostic, I said, I know what he's going to give us. Assists. It's not always going to look fantastic, but he will get the numbers. And in the first season, he got those numbers. In the second season, not. And that was an issue. I get it. But Nico Gonzalez is, he will give you consistency throughout the season. He will go out there, play his game, switch it off. Next Sunday, shows up again. Play consistently, gets his numbers. That's what he's doing at Fiorentina. He's not a player that is going to create one-on-ones, going to beat his man, and so on. He's not that type of player. So maybe that's why people are like, oof, 37, 38 million, you know, for a player who is... I know he says I like to dribble, but there's a difference in dribble. Like, you can have Kese type of dribbles, or you can have him type of dribbles. You know, it's with Kese it's very direct. With him, it's very composed. Like, it's a different style of play. However, I think he will do well with Mota. I really think he will do well with Mota. I give that a signing a 7, by the way, because I think the price is very steep in my opinion. But on the player, I like Nico Gonzalez. I know he will be give us um, consistent games, rating games, type of games, level of games. So I'm fine with that. You know, we needed wingers, we added him. I'm perfectly fine with Nico Gonzalez. I think he has something we don't have in that squad. You know, if you look at the other wingers we have or potential wingers you want to play, it's different. I get it, but I'm perfectly fine with that. I'm fine with the player. I like the player, and I'm looking at that. I'm like, you probably will be a key player for Mota in terms of with key. I think there will be a lot of rotation, but you will be end up being the guy playing the most. That's how I'm looking at Nico Gonzalez right now, purely because of that experience. Going back to, okay, if you want to be back in Serie A, you also need these type of players, and that's one of them according to the club. Other side, Nico Conceicao. Nico Conceicao. A deal out of nowhere. Or like out of nowhere. We were in for him, but when we closed that deal, everybody was like, huh? Really? Right now? We signed Conceicao? We did it. First off impression, the loan deal, oh my god, awful. Then the news came tripling down. We were like, okay, it makes sense. They will sit down, they will find an agreement, try to find an agreement, and then it will be up to Conceicao. On the player, I'm excited about it in terms of, I don't know how it can go either way. It can hit, it can miss. That's the type of player I think Conceicao will be for us. It will be absolutely top or will be absolutely mid. I don't think there's in between with Nico Gonzalez, with Conceicao. He is that high action player. He is that player that will take on guys, will dribble past guys, will do that at a pacey level, not so much as Nico Gonzalez. He's a different type of player, completely. More so to Chiesa in terms of how they want to beat their players. Um, he's heavily one-footed. Maybe that's the issue I have. I'm like, okay, if you actually explode, then you're kind of unstoppable on that 1 foot. But if it's in between, then yeah, you will be stoppable, you know, because he's heavily one-footed in my opinion. But his foot is good. That's not a knock. But that's a player I'm looking at. I'm like, okay, you know, show me what you got. Show me how, or Mota, show me how you want to use Conceicao in your plans, because I think that will be excited as well. You know, that will be a player that will be exciting to watch, to see, okay, how are we gonna make that happen? I'll give that deal a 7.5, by the way, because yeah, it's a big loan fee. But if it doesn't work out, then yeah, you still paid a big loan fee, but it's not the type of money you spend where you're like, okay, we lost a 30 million euro over here, or 40 million euros, whatever, when you actually got him outright. So looking forward to see Conceicao play. I think he will take more time, I hope I'm wrong, to actually, you know, slot in and do well, or actually calm down and pick up everything, you know, because even at the Eredivisie it was a bit hit and miss. I know it's a long time ago, but still, I think he will take some more time than the others to actually fit in. But if he does, he has potential to do extremely well, you know. So that's that for me. Overall on the window, fantastic. I'm not gonna lie, you know, and I know, not, I don't know, but probably not everybody will hit. You know, maybe it's a player on loan. If somebody doesn't hit, I hope everybody hits. It must be a player on loan, because we committed to the other players. I know people are panicking about Douglas Luiz. Look how he looks in the first 2 games. You know, slow. I think he's not up to pace right now. But overall, was anyone expecting us to do so much this window? Not me. Like, it wasn't me. I wasn't expecting that, but we still did. So I need to praise that. I actually need to praise that big time, because that's massive for this club. We offloaded a lot of players, yes, on the cheap, so on, so on. But and we took a hit, for example, with Kese. But that's the decision the club made. You know, we are gonna do a lot. We're gonna do basically 2 summers in one. Next summer we will fix what we couldn't fix, and maybe it's 1, 2 positions, make the deal permanent. Maybe one big player will leave, and we will address that, and we will shake the team up a little bit. But they said we're gonna do 2 things in one summer, basically 2 summers in one summer, and we will try to make it work. You know, that gives us a cushion to readjust things the following summer, and or next season we're ready. We're ready. We go into preseason with a fixed squad, maybe with an added bonus here and there, you know, or a tweak here and there, but not 8 players or 10 players, whatever. You know, just 1, 2 quick fixes, so on, and we just move. We're ready. Finally, a very good preseason together. I think that's the plan, and that's fantastic. I don't think anyone was expecting that. So overall, I mean, this is a 9 out of 10 window in terms of we address so many things. It's only the center back. That's still my biggest fear right now. Even though I understand you cannot do anything, everything. That's my biggest fear. But overall, I think fantastic. I think fantastic. So that's my ratings. Let me know in the comments what you think and why you give that player a rating. I know people say you're harsh and so on, so on. But that's how I feel right now. I'm excited for the new season. Hope you guys are as well. But yeah, let me know in the comments. Like the video, subscribe to the channel, and keep in mind the next live will be the coming Friday, you know, because I'm in Italy, you know, so enjoying that. But I'll put out videos every single day. But that's it for me. See you in the next one. Ciao.